Hi guys, welcome back to Novel Nomad, and I'm filming really fast because there's a brief glimmer of sunshine on this otherwise really cloudy day, but I just had to film my BookTube-A-Thon TBR for July. It runs from the 18th to the 24th of July, and there are 7 challenges in which you have to try and complete. It's not mandatory, but it's a challenge anyway, and it's just to be fun and exciting. So challenge number 1 is a cover that has a little bit of yellow on it, and I do have a lot of yellow covers. I don't know why I am drawn to yellow. I think it's a nice, vivid, bright colour, but this one I've chosen Circling the Sun by Paula McLean. So this one follows Beryl Markham. From her youth, her mother abandoned her family and she's been through multiple governesses, run away from boarding school. She's a bit of a wild card, and she actually ends up getting married at the age of 16, but it's a very disastrous marriage and she managed to escape that. She's a very scandalous divorcee, but she's just chasing her dreams. It's set after World War One, so of course we're going to have some wonderful, I think it's 20s and 30s like scenes going on, fashions, things like that, but also more independence within women, and also her drive and desire to get her freedom and desire to fly. The next book is a book that you're only allowed to read after sunset. Now that's kind of easy for me because the sun sets here around about 5:30 because it's winter, and so that's like a bit of an advantage. So I chose a chunky book, but it's also one that I've been meaning to get to ever since my tome Topple. I never got around to this one and I really want to read it, and that is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. Now I did explain this. It's about the Bodleian Library. A librarian who works there finds this like supernatural document, and she tries to hide it away. She doesn't want anything to do with it because she comes from a line of witches, but unfortunately it doesn't stay that way. So all these other supernatural creatures who want to get their hands on this very powerful document start turning up at the library, and she has a bit of a big crisis on her hands. So I really want to read this, and I thought, since okay, it's going to be like dark at 5:30, I could totally have more time to read this, and therefore I can go through a chunkier book. Challenge number 3 is a book that you've discovered because of BookTube, and that one I would have to say is Fair Fight by Amanda Freeman. This was on Mercedes' channel for Mercy's Bookish Musings, and I have to admit the cover did. As soon as she showed this book, the cover did actually seal the deal for me in a way. But it's also set, I think, in the late 1700s to early 1800s, and it's about female boxers. So it's about a topic that I don't know much about. I never really came across it very often when I did study history, so it's something that's really fascinating to me, and I really wanted to pick this up, and by all accounts it is a wonderful read. So historical fiction, and recommended by Mercedes, and beautiful cover. I think it's got all things going for it. I'm trying not to hype it up too much, but I'm really excited. Challenge number 4 is to read a book by a favourite author. Now, I have read, I think, nearly all of her works except for this one. She's got another one coming out and a few short stories, but I have read all the other books in her series, and that is Gail Carriger. I haven't read Prudence yet, and Prudence follows after her very popular The Parasol Protectorate series, which follows Alexia Tarabotti. And it all kind of interlinks, but I'm really excited. This follows Alexia's daughter, so obviously a few years later, and she seems a bit of a handful. She has, it's set like late Victorian period, and the supernaturals are also involved in this Victorian London, but it's quite hilarious. I always find myself laughing with Gail Carriger's writing, so I know this is just going to be something fun, light, easy. Well, it's just going to be a complete romp. Challenge number 5 is to read a book that is older than you. And I do have a few classics on my shelf that I want to get to, but this one isn't a classic, it is a fantasy. And it is 3 years older than me. It came out in 1987, and it's Mercedes Lackey's Arrows of the Queen. And I haven't read any Mercedes Lackey's before. I've read lots of fantasy works, but I kind of was surprised that I haven't heard much about her, except for her recent stuff. So I'm going back to some of her really early works. I want to see where this author kind of developed in the fantasy realm, where it took her, and I'm really interested into getting into this. It is more of a medieval Renaissance stylized fantasy, and it follows Talia. She is a runaway, but she's chosen by the head of the Queen's Guard, or as a companion as such, to be trained as a herald and to become one of the Queen's Guard. And she has a lot of power and potential in her, but unfortunately at the same time as she is doing her training, there's some very dangerous people brewing very dangerous plots, and so it just sounds like it's going to be a really good adventure and a really classic style fantasy. Challenge number 6 is to read and watch the book-to-movie adaptation. Now, I had The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas on my genre-thon reading list, and I never got around to it, and I still haven't. And I haven't even seen the movie, so this is something that I really, really want to read. And it has a movie out, and it's a shorter book, so I do have a few chunky ones here, but I thought this one would be a little bit nicer, a little bit quieter, but still quite powerful, and it'd be interesting to see the movie. And yes, it's World War II. I am getting a bit of a fix here in my history reads. The final challenge, challenge 7, is to read 7 books. Now, this one's going to be interesting because I hope to get around to it, because the author is actually coming to my local city and I really, really want to go see him. And this is a new release from him, and it's Chris Cleave's Everyone Brave is Forgiven. It follows the story of Mary North as she signs up immediately to go into war service, and she thinks she's going on the front lines to be a spy, but unfortunately they have something else in mind, and she ends up becoming a teacher for many of the children who are left in London. And it also follows 2 friends, Tom and Alistair, as one enlists for the war and the other one believes he now has to, and their experience during the war and how that is involved with Mary and how their whole lives changed dramatically during World War II. I really desperately want to read Chris Cleave's work. I've had so many recommendations about his work on BookTube, on Instagram, on everything, and I just want to get to this one, and so I'm hoping that I can actually make this my 7th book in the BookTube-A-Thon read-a-thon. These are the books I've selected. Fingers crossed so many times I get to read all of them. I actually have no buddy reads that week. I have no plans that week. I'm not traveling that week. So I'm hoping to get some really good quality reading time and get these done. So thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.